Hi guys, welcome back to Flick Finesse. Today we're diving into 11 gripping thrillers you can stream on Netflix, Philo, and Pluto TV this December. Expect shadowy mysteries, nerve-tightening chases, and mind-twisting finales, stories that keep pulling you deeper with every scene. We hope you discover a fresh gem for your watch list. Drop your own thriller recommendations in the comments. We love exploring your picks. So, without stretching the suspense any longer, let's jump right in. Number 11. Prevenge. Ruth, an emotionally fractured woman drifting through the remnants of her former life, is struggling to keep her sanity from slipping into the abyss. Grief has settled into her bones like a permanent winter, shaping her days with a quiet, suffocating weight. She moves through the world, guarded and hollow, clinging to the last traces of control. But this fragile shell begins to crack when an unsettling voice, quiet, insistent, and impossibly intimate, starts guiding her actions. It becomes a constant presence in her solitude, urging her toward dark corners she has spent her life avoiding, pulling her into the paths of strangers who sense the storm beneath her calm exterior. Her city, once familiar, now feels like a maze of tense encounters and shadowed spaces. Every hallway and fleeting interaction carries an undercurrent of unease. Ruth's strained composure becomes a mask she relies on, while an invisible pressure keeps tightening around her. As Ruth moves through these turbulent days, she's drawn toward consequences she never imagined facing. Each choice feels heavier than the last, peeling back layers of sorrow and fear she can't outrun. Prevenge becomes a haunting descent into a fractured mind. A bleak, mesmerizing exploration of grief, isolation, and the dark corners of human resolve. Number 10. Good news. Nobody, a worn-out crisis fixer barely holding the seams of his routine together, drifts through high-pressure halls as if the air itself weighs more each day. Years of political turmoil and relentless blame have etched a quiet exhaustion into him, teaching him to depend on instinct rather than conviction. He's determined to maintain the nation's fragile order, even if it costs him whatever he has left. But this brittle steadiness fractures when he's paired with Hyun-woo, a young officer whose untouched ideals clash sharply with his fatigue. Their sudden meeting inside a volatile command center sparks an uneasy alliance, a bond shaped not by trust, but by shared urgency, and a threat growing faster than they can contain. The unfolding crisis turns into a narrow corridor of breathless tension. Beneath the frantic commands lies a maze of hidden motives. Nobody's hardened calm forces a reluctant partnership, pushing both men into escalating situations that test their resolve. As pressure mounts, they're dragged into consequences heavier than expected. Each decision chips at their beliefs, and every moment exposes truths long avoided. Control slips, revealing a system trembling under its own contradictions. Good news becomes a taut, gripping descent into moral fog, a collision of weary experience and unbroken idealism, driven by two men fighting to hold order as the world tilts toward chaos. Number 9. Furioza. Dawood, a once entangled soul trying to outrun the ghosts of his past, clings to the fragile balance he has built outside the violent world he abandoned. Years of chaos, fractured loyalties, and buried guilt have carved a lasting strain into his spirit, teaching him to move quietly, hoping the storm behind him never returns. But that hard-won stillness shatters when he's confronted by Zika. Her sudden reappearance drags old wounds to the surface, forcing an uneasy proposition. One born from leverage, fear, and a need for answers neither can avoid. The hooligan underworld becomes a relentless corridor of shifting tensions. Beneath its roar lies a maze of buried resentments and dangerous loyalties. Dawood's reluctant return traps him in suffocating situations that demand impossible choices, each one tightening the grip of the life he fled. As he moves deeper into this unforgiving arena, consequences grow heavier with every step. Each encounter forces him to face the identity he's been running from, and every moment threatens to expose the fractures he's long concealed. Furioza unfolds as a bruising, atmospheric descent into loyalty, violence, and redemption. A collision of past and present, where survival never comes clean. Number 8. Fear Inc. Joe Foster, a restless man numbed by routine, drifts through his days with a hunger for something that might jolt him awake. Monotony and a craving for thrill have carved a quiet vacancy inside him, pushing him toward anything that feels alive. He's determined to disrupt his stagnant existence, even if it means inviting danger he barely understands. That craving intensifies when he discovers a secret company promising handcrafted fear. An outfit that thrives on erasing the boundary between play and peril. Their arrival becomes the spark for a reckless leap, a choice born from boredom sharpened into recklessness. The night ahead turns into a maze of shifting events, each tightening around him with unnerving precision. This shadow-laced playground becomes a corridor of escalating trials. Behind every staged moment lurks a deeper uncertainty, a question of how far this game intends to push him. Joe's thirst for excitement traps him in situations far beyond the harmless adrenaline he imagined. As he navigates this tightening spiral, consequences close in fast. Every choice drags him further into a dangerously controlled illusion, exposing just how unprepared he is for the terror he willingly summoned. Fear Inc. becomes a sly, unsettling descent, a tale of amusement twisting into menace, and fear turning real the moment you lose track of what's scripted. Number 7. Double Blind. Claire, a woman haunted by regret and uncertainty, volunteers for a medical trial searching for escape and stability, a chance to erase the haze that's clouded her life for far too long. Years of routine disappointments and quiet longing have shaped her into someone who hopes in silence, who steps carefully rather than leaps recklessly. She clings to this experiment as if it could offer a concrete anchor, even a sliver of control. But as the trial proceeds, the sterile surroundings and strict schedules begin to unravel. Medical procedures blur into cold efficiency. Small anomalies start rising, strange reactions, half-vague reassurances, and an ascending dread that the walls themselves are watching. The very facility meant to restore her becomes a tightened noose of tension. That locked-down building, with its antiseptic corridors and flickering lights, transforms into a claustrophobic cage. Under the flicker of fluorescent bulbs, what began as science morphs into something far darker. As Claire and her fellow participants stay awake and vigilant, exhaustion, fear, and paranoia begin to erode their resolve. Trust fractures, alliances waver, and desperation settles in. With each hour, the experiment tests far more than just physiology. It probes morality, sanity, and human fragility. The horror of being trapped isn't just physical, it's existential. Claire must decide whether survival is worth paying the cost, no matter how deep the shadows grow. Double Blind stands as a chilling, unrelenting descent into psychological horror, a story about control lost, boundaries pushed too far, and the horrifying cost of desperation when hope becomes a gamble. Number 6. You Are Not My Mother. Char, a withdrawn teenager trying to keep her life from slipping further into uncertainty, moves through her days with a quiet determination. Growing up in a home clouded by unspoken strain has taught her to rely on caution rather than comfort. She's learned to steady herself even when the people closest to her feel distant and unpredictable. But this uneasy balance shatters when her mother abruptly vanishes, only to return acting in ways that defy every familiar memory Char has. The woman who comes home carries the same face, yet something in her presence feels disturbingly altered, as if she's wearing humanity like a borrowed layer. Their small, dimly lit neighborhood transforms into a maze of subtle warnings. Behind its ordinary routines lurks a tension that tightens with every passing day. Char's growing suspicion forces her into a reluctant confrontation with the strange rituals, old fears, and fractured family ties she's spent her life avoiding. As she treads deeper into this unsettling reality, Char is drawn into a dangerous crossroads of folklore and identity. Every revelation pushes her to question what love demands, what fear conceals, and what she must risk to protect herself. You Are Not My Mother unfolds as a chilling, atmospheric descent into the uncanny. A story where the line between family and threat blurs, and a young girl must face the darkness that has quietly settled inside her home. Number 5. The Cleansing Hour. Max, a charismatic showman masking a lifetime of insecurity, has built his fame on illusions. Night after night, he stages dramatic exorcisms for millions online, convincing the world that he battles real demons while quietly knowing it's all a performance. The pressure to keep his empire alive has shaped him into someone who clings to attention the way others cling to faith. But this thin veneer of control fractures the moment one broadcast spirals out of his hands. When a routine show turns disturbingly authentic, Max is confronted by a presence far beyond his carefully scripted world, a force that exposes every secret he's buried beneath ambition. The studio that once felt like a playground becomes a confined arena of escalating dread. Behind the blinding lights and cameras lies a tangle of old guilt and festering fears, pushing Max and his lifelong friend Drew into a volatile confrontation with the truth. Their bond, once steady, begins to splinter under the weight of a threat neither can manipulate or outrun. As the live stream unfolds in real time, each minute drags them deeper into a storm of moral reckoning. Every command, every slip, every revelation chips away at the personas they've crafted, leaving them exposed to consequences they never imagined. The Cleansing Hour is a fierce, unnerving descent into the cost of deception, a collision between manufactured spectacle and terrifying reality. It's the story of men forced to face the monsters they created and the darker ones they've carried all along. Number 4. Byzantium. Clara, a restless woman carving out a life she was never meant to have, moves through the world with reckless purpose. Years of struggle, exploitation, and constant flight have sharpened her into someone who refuses to bow to fear. She's determined to secure a future for herself and the girl she's protected for far too long. But this relentless drive is shaken whenever she looks at Eleanor, the quiet young woman who carries centuries of sorrow behind her calm eyes. Eleanor drifts at the edges of every place they settle, withdrawn, reflective, and exhausted by the weight of truths she can never reveal. Their arrival in a fading seaside town becomes the start of another uneasy refuge, a haven built on secrecy, routine, and the hope that their past won't catch up. This lonely coastline becomes a fragile sanctuary, steeped in dim corridors and muted whispers. Beneath its stillness lies a constant tremor of danger. Clara's fierce instinct to protect collides with Eleanor's longing for honesty, pushing them into conflicts neither can outrun. As the days unfold, both women find themselves entangled in looming consequences. Every interaction threatens to expose the carefully constructed life they depend on, and every decision pulls them closer to endings they've evaded for years. Byzantium is a haunting, atmospheric descent into identity, survival, and the price of outlasting time. A story shaped by two women bound together by circumstance, each carrying a history that refuses to fade. Number 3. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. John, a weary soldier carrying the remnants of too many battles, moves through the conflict with a guarded resolve. Years of dangerous assignments and fractured loyalties have etched a quiet heaviness into him, teaching him to operate on instinct rather than trust. He's determined to complete his duty, even as the toll of war shadows every step he takes. But this hardened routine is disrupted when he encounters Ahmed, an interpreter whose calm exterior hides an unwavering resilience. Their first meeting in a volatile region sparks an uneasy partnership, a connection built not on comfort, but on necessity and the immediate demand for survival. The hostile terrain becomes a narrow passage of harrowing choices. Beneath its dust and silence lies an unpredictable threat that forces both men into a fragile cooperation. John's mission twists into something far more personal, pushing him into choices he never expected to face. As John and Ahmed navigate this unforgiving landscape, they are drawn into a series of escalating stakes. Each decision exposes their buried fears, and every moment reveals how far they are willing to go for one another when escape feels impossible. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant unfolds as a tense, human-driven journey through conflict and conscience, a powerful portrait of two men bound by circumstance, tested by danger, and challenged by the cost of loyalty in a world where survival is never guaranteed. Number 2. Marrowbone. Jack, a young man burdened far beyond his years, clings to the fragile promise of a fresh start as he shelters his siblings inside a decaying country house. The weight of responsibility has carved quiet resolve into his every movement, teaching him to navigate life with caution rather than confidence. He is determined to protect what remains of their fractured family, no matter the cost. But that fragile sense of sanctuary trembles the moment an unsettling presence seems to stir within the walls. Whispers of something unseen, something unspoken, begin to fracture the stillness of their once hopeful refuge. What was meant to be a shelter becomes a silent battleground of secrets, anxiety, and the shadows they hope to outrun. The house itself becomes a tense, suffocating maze, its boarded windows and abandoned corridors hiding fears none of them dare confront. Beneath its quiet facade lies a tangle of emotional wounds and buried truths. Jack's desperate attempts to shield his siblings force him into choices no young guardian should face, pushing the limits of his resolve. As the siblings navigate the oppressive solitude of their crumbling home, they find themselves caught in a slow tightening of dread. Every creak in the floorboards, every glance exchanged in uneasy silence, reveals how grief and survival have intertwined to shape them. Each moment forces them to reckon with the ghosts of their past. Whether real or imagined, Marrowbone unfolds as a haunting, intimate journey through hidden trauma and fierce loyalty, a story of a family bound together by fear, hope, and the secrets they can't escape, each step drawing them closer to truths they're not prepared to face. Number 1. Face Off. Castor, a ruthless criminal buried beneath chaos and vanity, thrives on disruption, turning every room into a battlefield. Years of violence and unchecked ambition have shaped him into a man who survives through manipulation. He's tethered to his own twisted code, determined to maintain the empire stitched together through fear and precision. But this volatile existence spirals the moment he becomes entangled with Sean, a grief-scarred federal agent driven by purpose and pain. Their collision, fueled by hatred, obsession, and unfinished history, ignites a reckless chain of events that forces them into a bond built not on trust, but on necessity and shifting identity. This charged landscape becomes a narrow arena of psychological warfare. Sean's relentless pursuit triggers an unthinkable exchange, thrusting both men into a dangerous imbalance where truth and illusion begin to fuse. As Castor and Sean navigate this unstable descent, they're pulled into a storm of escalating stakes. Every decision drags them deeper, magnifying their most fragile weaknesses. Face Off is a bold, nerve-wracking dance of duality, a high-voltage tale of two men locked in a struggle for control, each haunted by wounds, forced to confront the terrifying question of who they truly are. And that's our list for today. If you enjoyed it, hit like and subscribe to Flick Finesse for more thriller picks every month. Tell us your favorites in the comments. We always check your suggestions. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.